Welcome to this news briefing from the 249th National Meeting and Exposition of the American Chemical Society in Denver. We're talking this morning about the American Chemical Society's first open access journal, ACS Central Science. We're joined by the founding editor-in-chief, Dr. Carolyn Bertozzi, from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute and the University of California, Berkeley, senior editor Dr. Ben Davis from the University of Oxford, Dr. Aspuru-Guzik from Harvard University, who is on the editorial advisory board, and Dr. Darla Henderson from ACS Publications. Dr. Bertozzi?
Thank you, and thank you, panelists, for joining us on this very exciting day. We're launching ACS Central Science, and I'm absolutely thrilled and quite honored to be involved in the project as the founding editor-in-chief. Our vision for the journal is to basically publish the highest impact, broadest, most exciting research content in chemistry and allied fields to the broadest audience possible. And what we hope to do is showcase the centrality of chemistry, hence the name of the journal, as the science that brings together the life sciences and physical sciences, applied and basic sciences, and links together the properties of molecules and matter with all of the important applications that chemistry has already realized in the world we live in. We're particularly excited to be the first fully open access journal at ACS, meaning that there will be no page charges for authors, no subscription charges. And this means that we can reach the broadest audience possible. So when someone outside of the chemistry community hears about an exciting paper in Central Science, they can get right into the journal and read that paper, and I think we can elevate the visibility of chemistry outside of our chemistry core community, and that's what I think is the most exciting opportunity about this journal.
Okay, Dr. Davis?
I think Karen's vision for this journal is wonderful and exciting, and one of the things that's attracted me as a senior editor is this idea of high-profile chemistry in an accessible way. Open access publishing for me is almost a moral imperative. And although people have said that before, it's often the case that this has been done without the controls and the experience and the beauty of peer review that I believe this editorial board and advisory board bring. Their expertise, coupled with this vision for freedom in publishing, is a very, very exciting thing, and it's something that I'm very proud and pleased to be part of.
Okay.
And I am Aspuru-Guzik. I have two roles today here. I am an editorial advisory board member, and I'm very happy to be there. I am an open access advocate. I do believe that, as Ben and Caroline have said, open access is pretty much a moral imperative to reach as many people as possible. I'm also very happy that one of the papers from my research group is going to be in the first issue that is going to be released sometime today. I had a great experience working with the team in the article, and there's a lot of things that are extra to it than regular journals that make it very exciting to publish in ACS Central Science.
Hi, I'm Darla Henderson, the Assistant Director of Open Access Programs at the American Chemical Society. And our mission at the ACS is to improve people's lives through the transforming power of chemistry. This is a wonderful opportunity for ACS to really showcase that mission. And we're taking the hallmarks of traditional ACS publications, that is, peer review managed by practicing research scientists in the field, as you see here, and rapid quality peer review, combining that with the power of the Open Access Initiative, making all this content readily available to the world, as well as our colleagues at CNE News who are collaborating to help explain some of the importance of chemistry and the importance of the research articles that are being published to the world. We're delighted to be launching the journal. We feel that we are in an excellent position and looking forward to making this journal a true success and a true value to the world.
Okay, so do we have any questions? Please state your name and affiliation when you're asking a question. Doug? There's a switch at the very bottom of the microphone.
Thank you. Doug Dollamore, Science Elements Podcast. Could you give us an idea of what types of articles are in this inaugural issue?
Yes, I can answer that. So we have quite a range of research articles that cover experimental chemical concepts, physical chemistry, nanoscience. We have an article on catalysis. Alain's article bridges the interface between computational chemistry and computer science. We really have covered quite a bandwidth in this first issue with the first handful of papers. I'm very excited about this because I think we'll bring in, right off the bat, a very broad readership, and people will see that we are covering all of the core disciplines of chemistry, but in a way that's very interdisciplinary. And every paper that is in that first issue spans at least 2 areas of chemistry and outside of chemistry. And maybe Alain actually can say something about his own work.
Yeah, so I work at the interface of physics and applied math and chemistry, and it has always been very challenging or interesting to find places where papers can go in, because they can go in both places or multidisciplinary journals. So when I found out that Central Science had this vision, I was delighted because now papers are, for example, at the interface of machine learning and chemistry, or computer science and chemistry, or applied math and chemistry, could have a very broad home where people can see the exciting things that happen at the interface. In my paper, what we did was take a technique from signal processing called compressed sensing that is used, for example, to compress the photos on your cell phones. Otherwise, the photos will not fit in your phone, to actually compress information about molecular vibrations and actually make the calculation considerably faster. So that's an example of a paper that combines 2 different areas and advances chemistry.
Other than the page, the waiver of the page fees, why should someone submitting a paper to an ACS journal consider your journal? I mean, they could get, if they submit it to a journal that we have that is within their area, they would be reaching the target audience that they want to get to. And I'm just wondering, since you're a broad overview, what do you think the advantages from that standpoint are for your journal?
That's right. Well, so, ACS has an impressive portfolio of journals. What's the total count?
47?
47. We're I think, 47th journal, and wonderful journals that are at the very top of their fields and that reach targeted communities as well as broader communities. And there's certainly many wonderful journals one can publish just within the ACS family. Central Science is positioned to basically elevate the visibility of chemistry outside of the core of chemistry. So whereas, when someone chooses a topical ACS journal to publish their work in, they might know their target audience. I'd like to think in Central Science, we don't really know the complete breadth of our target audience, and we're hoping to basically create a new audience that might not normally read ACS journals. So the open access is a very important component of that outreach. It also means that articles written for Central Science should be written with a much broader audience in mind than the core of one's community. So I publish articles in JAX from my own research, and we just submitted one last week, I think, into JAX. And when I publish an article in JAX, it's because I think it's of broad interest to chemists. But in Central Science, I'd like to think if I had a piece of work that I thought I would like to be read by an audience outside of chemistry, an audience of life scientists, imaging scientists, or people who work in atmospheric science outside of the chemical regime. I'd like to think that we can reach those people with Central Science, but it means I have to write my paper differently. So the papers that we welcome to Central Science should be papers that are written with not too much technical jargon that is field specific, written to frame the problem in the broadest sense of the work, and written in a way that the 2 words that I repeatedly use to describe to people what I'm looking for in the journal is readability, accessibility. So that, I think, will be the position of Central Science in the ACS family.
Other questions? Behind?
Bill Obuslik, ACS News Service. Am I to believe that this targeting of a much broader audience will be somewhat like the chemical twist on Scientific American? Like that style articles, or a little more rigorous articles than you see in those?
This is a good question. So, actually, we have both in Central Science. So we have research articles, which are rigorous research articles of the type in any widely read, high-impact research journal. Okay, so our research articles are at the very highest level of rigor and quality, but written in a way that hopefully is understandable outside of the core discipline. But we also have front matter in Central Science. We have, for example, invited mini-reviews that we call outlooks, where there the style should be more, perhaps, leaning towards a Scientific American article, which can engage a very broad audience of people like, my parents and my friends who are not even scientists, but who are curious people who want to understand science and might read Scientific American on occasion. So, and that front matter content, we think will also elicit some excitement among people who don't even consider themselves professional chemists or research scientists, but curious people who might come across one of your news releases in their Twitter feed and say, oh, I didn't realize that chemistry was central to the mission to Mars, and I'd like to learn more about that. And then they click on it, and there's a little Outlook article in Central Science about that. Oh, I didn't realize that chemistry was central to mapping the human brain. Oh, I'd like to understand that better. But at the same time, there'll be research content in there that, of course, someone who's research active will be more interested in reading.
But the focus is still going to be chemistry.
The centrality of chemistry.
That's one of the things that Scientific American went off the deep end at one point or another, going to economics and political interpretations on scientific basis, which was a total disaster.
Well, we have an online question, actually, so let me get to that one before we run out of time. Christine Suh at ACS News Service is asking, why start an open access journal now? What makes this the right time for ACS to take this step?
Right. I can speak to that. So ACS Central Science is an idea that has maybe been blossoming for a few years. The environment is changing with open access becoming more important, and we recognized a unique opportunity to create a new journal that marries both the rigorous research articles as well as intriguing front matter and help ACS advance its overall mission. So we felt this was the right time to recognize and to launch our first fully open access journal at ACS.
And is this going to be online only, or will there be print copies?
Since 2009, all of our new journals have published online only. And so we will be making this journal also online only later today with our first issue releasing.
Okay, other questions? Could you please state your name and affiliation, too? Oh, no.
It's on the bottom there somewhere.
Kevin Davis with ACS. So for Carolyn and the other members of the editorial group, I'd like to hear a little bit more about open access, your views as to how important open access is in terms of disseminating your own research, and also the importance you think of raising the profile of open access for the chemistry community. I wonder because it doesn't seem to quite have caught fire in the chemistry world as in the life sciences and other areas.
I can comment on that because, I've been on the faculty at UC Berkeley for 20 years, and one of the pioneers of open access publishing, who's one of the founders of the PLOS journal series, Mike Eisen, is my dear colleague who I've known for some time. Also, as an investigator of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, I've watched the evolution of eLife, which is another fully open access life sciences journal that's sponsored by HHMI and the Max Planck Institute and the Wellcome Trust. So I've seen the evolution of open access publishing in the life sciences, starting from what was, I think, a bit of a maverick grassroots activism campaign to what is now considered a very sophisticated and mature mode of publishing. And I think what these organizations have taught us is that open access publishing can be a successful business model. That's an important lesson too. Now in the physical sciences, or at least in the chemical sciences, I really haven't heard much discussion of open access publishing until just the last few years. And when ACS Central Science, when ACS Pubs made the announcement that Central Science would be fully open access, that was the first I had heard of such an effort. And now I know that other publishing houses are sort of following the lead of Central Science, which is exciting to see. So I think the chemistry community does not yet fully appreciate the power of open access publishing. They really don't. So I think we're breaking new ground, but we have plenty of precedent before us from all of those early pioneers in the life sciences. And I spent a lot of time talking to those guys about what works and what doesn't work and people's concerns about open access publishing. And, you know, I think, quite frankly, in the life sciences, an early debate was how impactful an open access journal could be. And I think we now know the answer to that, which is incredibly impactful.
I think one of the interesting things is that as the open access model develops, it's clear that there's some beautiful ideas coming out, but no one's quite got the perfect system. And there's elements of trust, there's elements of community building, and that certainly hasn't happened, I agree with Carolyn, to the same extent within the chemistry community, and there's something there that can be done, but also that can spread more widely, break down these sometimes artificial barriers between what's viewed as research science and publicly accessible science. It's not the case that we feel that we have to patronize the public when we're talking with our friends down the pub, so why can't we do the same in a journal? And open access would allow that to happen in a beautiful way, bringing with it the expertise of an editorial board, advisory board, who are practicing scientists, who are excited in the same broad way about the centrality of chemistry.
And I would like to add that, of course, in the physics side of things, computer science, it's been years since the archive ePrint server has changed the way the people in my field do science. The first thing one does in the morning in my field is to check the archive and see what's up there. So we see the papers even at the preprint level, something that doesn't even is conceivable in chemistry, right? But even then, most of the papers, or many of the papers end up also in open access journals that are widely looked at. For example, my second most cited paper is actually an open access journal of physics. So I think that tells you, the possible impact of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that don't have access to it just looking at it.
Let me add to that, actually, that I think it's wonderful that the chemistry publishing houses are now, at least experimenting with open access, some embracing it more than others. ACS, of course, has fully embraced it. But we had better catch up quickly because, many of the funding organizations in the world are now mandating open access publishing for these reasons of being responsible to the taxpayers who support the agencies. And maybe you can comment about what's happening in the UK.
So the next round of the research assessment exercise in the UK, which is probably the most important method for determining the quality of scientists and their departments, has decided that unless something is open access, then it can't be submitted as a publication to be reviewed. And so they've made a very bold statement about what needs to be done in the community, and people will follow for the right reasons, because they think it's right.
And at ACS, this is our first fully open access journal, but for all of our 46 other journals, there is an open access option that we make available for authors. It's called ACS Author Choice, and we have a variety of licenses and options that meet the needs of emerging funder mandates around the world. So we're pleased that ACS Central Science is leading the way as our first fully open access journal, but authors who are selected for publication in other journals also have the opportunity to make their research articles open access across the portfolio.
Okay, other questions? There's another one.
Hi, Erin Weringe from ACS. You've spoken about the broad reach of the science that, and the research that you'll be publishing. What I wanted to hear from you is what is it you're looking for? And it sounds like the research you'll be publishing is exceptional. And what is it that will make it that way? What is it that is appealing to you?
I can comment on that. So, when I see a paper that I feel is really a good fit for Central Science, usually what it possesses is, it has something really innovative and new that I haven't seen before. It draws connections between the chemical sciences and other areas of science in a way that I think will cause people to think differently about science, both within and outside of chemistry. Or it bridges disciplines within chemistry in a really exciting new way, or makes a fundamental discovery, something that's so beautiful and fundamental that we didn't know about the way molecules work. I'm looking for something that just strikes me as wow, I really learned something new from reading this paper, and it's something surprising, something that shocks me. So that's the first hook for me. But again, I'm always thinking about how does this work showcase the centrality of chemistry in the world that we live in and in science? That ultimately that's it. And of course, it's got to be absolutely technically rigorous and all of the usual quality control bars. Fortunately, I don't have to make these decisions on my own. I have a team of senior editors and editorial advisory board members that cover an enormous range of chemistry, and many of these folks operate in circles outside of chemistry as much as inside, like Alon. We have people on our editorial advisory board from departments that are not chemistry at all, like departments of material sciences departments or engineering departments. And so we have an incredibly broad group of people who can advise on the submissions that we get.
Other questions? If not, thank you so much for joining us. The archived version of this session will soon be posted at bit.ly/ACS Live Denver. Please join us for our next press conference today at 9 a.m. Mountain Time on obesity fighting bacteria. Thank you.